Yes.
Hello, namaste, everyone. Today, again, we have someone very special talking to us for the Vedic Couple channel. We have Anup Panthi. He had his education as a computer engineer, but Anup Panthi is someone that I have been knowing since a decade and is someone who is like, I want to add, there are many of us who dream. We want to achieve something. We want to achieve that is like our a very intense desire in our heart and mind. But how many of us we get it into the way in our exact way? So Anupanthi is like a computer engineer, but right now he has chased his dreams and become one of the most renowned figure in globally. I have to say globally in the field of sound healing. This is a very beautiful topic and it has so much of beautiful dimensions we need to talk about. Anup is like a brother, is a friend, and also I'm constantly motivated and inspired by his story. Today we'll be discussing about his all uh, events of life that made Anup Panthi what he is today. Right now, he's running Sound Healing Nepal, has educated, mentored like more than 5,000 people all over the world. And this is not a simple game. This is a huge story. A boy from Nepal, right now sitting in Pokhara and doing such a beautiful and lovely work. And I am pleased and I am humbled how Anup has instantly given me time to talk about his story. So I welcome you, Anup, to the show. This is an inspirational story season of for the Vedic couple. Namaste and welcome, Anup.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Dee. It's such a privilege to be here. And let's see what these conversations brings about.
Yes. First of all, Anup, it's about maybe we are in the mid 30s of our life. There are lots of people, lots of youngsters who are really confused over their mind and heart, over their education and their priorities, over their education and their inner interest. So maybe this can be a paving way or conversation for those people, especially. So first of all, I would like to know, Anup, can you talk about your childhood?
Well, my childhood was, I think, like the way that I work with people, I would be very, I would consider myself, first of all, very privileged because I don't come from this is my strong point. I think I have a lot of strong points. First of all, I grew up in a very aware family, very spiritual family. My father, he was a yogi, and he was also into Ayurveda and like this. And so from childhood, we really got to taste the spiritual side of it, and also in a very musical family. And one more thing is economically, we were not so, I would say, very weak. So I think to to do something, a few things are very important. And I think I had all of this in my childhood. A wonderful upbringing. My father, of course, like I consider him a very important part of my life. He was very aware of things. He was very aware of the concept of the karma and the traumas and like that. So we had a very big family. We had like three sisters and two brothers, and the way that and that time the way that our society, Nepali society, would see the daughters and son, how they would see and what kind of education they should get was not what my father would actually think. My father would rather send us to the same government school, even though that he can send the guys to the private school,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So basically the idea was, okay, chori, I mean the girl, child must go to simple school because eventually she will leave the home and she will be gone. But
Yeah.
then my father was not like that. He said like, if one person is going to go to that particular school, so we were five people, we went to the same school, and education was very important in our family. Music was very important.
Mm.
And yeah, and my childhood was, I think it's one of the best, amazing, very privileged. I have to admit that, because I see, that's why I don't consider my life to be very inspirational in that sense, because I had a lot of things that I could step up and then, do like this.
No, no,
So,
Anup,
um,
sometimes we mistaken our concepts, like being inspirational is not being in the struggle. Inspirational is
yeah,
like
absolutely.
there's so many people around us. They have all the
Yeah,
facilities, all and all, maximum of what we have seen. But still
yeah,
their life may be a very simple life that is not too much
mm,
inspirational for many people around,
absolutely.
right? So I was
Agree.
talking in
Yeah,
that sense. And
yeah,
so I got my point, the strongest point, that how the upbringing and the rooting of your culture, how you were nurtured, were so important. It has come in your genes as well. And
yes.
because you
I would say that. I would
yeah,
say
because
that. Yeah,
I quite follow you in the social media, and we have often sometimes met also. So I can
yeah,
see that part of, the realities, the real reality of life. The you have seen like people, almost like so many people from around the world. You have tasted success in your own, by your own arms, by your own whatever you have seen, like up and down the situation of Nepal, on and off, the political instability. There are COVID. There are so many things that are coming, but you have always sticked to the point where you started. And I
yeah.
never saw you like distracted ever. You were always focused on what you were doing, and that is such an inspiration, because many of the times we carry our dreams, we are paving our ways, but we get distracted more often. And that is the thing that I don't see in you. That's why it's an inspirational story.
Uh,
It has to be uh,
thank you.
talked about, and it has to be listened. So Anup, after
Yeah,
we now know about your childhood. So how this computer
yeah,
engineering thing happened? You could have pursued yourself more in this way already in your education.
yeah.
Maybe you could have taken classical music to learn, to study. There were so many things, but why? How this computer engineering happened?
Yes. Something, I don't know. Music was very important. At the age of 6, I started playing guitar, and then I got into piano and all these things. I was always dreaming, because in our village, there was a person who was doing this music from a certain university. I forgot, but when I was like very young, and then I cannot recall that the name of the university, but it was some university in France or Switzerland. And he was so famous. I mean, like everyone was talking about, wow, this guy studied music and he's now a music producer in UK, but he studied like that. And when he would visit our place, our town, and everybody would be like, wow, as if like, he's kind of alien, or he's like something very great. And I always wanted to like, yes, I also want to do like, I want to pursue my music career, and I want to do like this in this university, like that. But then again, the environment that you get exposed to really plays a lot of important role in what you do with your life. So then I saw my friends, because my friends were more studious. And so then I saw like when I was in from the 8th standard onwards, everybody was talking about pursuing either, well, let's say medical studies or engineering in that sense. And I was very good in, mathematics and physics. And so I have no idea like how I drifted unconsciously towards the crowd,
Yeah.
like a ship, without anything, because I thought back then when I would see a guitarist, there were not very good examples. Everybody would be either on the drugs, and either they are struggling. I mean, my father would be like, do you want to become guitarist like that guy? There needs to be some people, right? And
Yes.
only one person was there who did that studies, and that too, he was somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I would just see people making, let's say, playing guitar or musician in that sense, who were so much into drugs, and then they were struggling to get even basic necessities, and they were like so much struggling, and then they would drink and puke all over the place. They would get into fight, and so the way that we were looking, into music world, it was very pathetic, actually, to be honest. And then, like, I didn't want to do that, and there was no pride in doing that. But
Yeah.
then when I came to Kathmandu later
Yeah.
on, then yeah, so we got. I think I got drifted into what I was good in, rather than what I really wanted to. I was also good in music, but I think that time, because I was so much into I was like listening to people that didn't have my kind of background. So many people, my friends, like they were really talking about, oh, I will get into job and I'll buy a bike. For me to get the bike was not so big deal. So and then I was like drifted into that kind of
Yeah.
crowd. So I think this is where I got into that kind of
Into
job.
that.
It was very unconscious. It was very unconscious,
This is
actually.
this is a sort of mistake most of our little boys and girls, they are coming like from after CE, after their 12th, they are like distracted and not really
Yeah,
really into what the main essence of their life or a dream is about. They are like drifted away.
yeah,
We are also like that. It's not like we were like a perfect at that time. We were also like that, exactly like that. So, okay, now we understood like how the computer thing happened. And after you finished your studies, then how this
yeah,
shift happened. Again, this is a very beautiful, thing to really know
yeah.
how this shift happened and how you started, what were the early days of this career regarding the music
Yeah.
and sound. Can you tell that?
Yes. Now, I think to wake up, you need a jolt in life. The bigger the jolt, I think you will wake up. We all have that. So me also, I had gotten into an accident. I met with an accident, and it was kind of very deep.
Mm.
And uh, then, the way that when I would, let's say, see a doctor, and I had to meet some, like, some people who were working on that, because I had gotten into a trauma kind of thing. And the way that the doctors and these guys would handle me like a subject was very different from the way that my father handled me. He didn't handle me like a father, but he handled me like a healer. He would take me, he would guide me in such a beautiful way. And it's all about inspiration. I think what happens is what you are exposed to. And I was exposed to my father from childhood, and then some people. And I really, I wanted to get into the Indian classical music. That also was because of a certain exposure, like that I got from wonderful performance, you know by this famous Indian classical, this flutes. He was in Kathmandu, and we had gone there. And his name is Bhimsen Joshi, and then he was playing flute. So, like, I was young, and this, like, he was playing the way that he was playing. It was like, oh wow, I want to do that. So it is always inspiration. What you see, where do you take inspiration from? So at that time, after doing this, I was also working a little bit. I was making my own project, and then I had got into this, some kind of event in my life, which really slowed me down. And the way that other
What was your
people
age at
would
that time, Anup?
treat
What
me.
was the time
Yeah.
when the accident happened? What was your age?
Oh, I think, I was maybe 21, I think. 21 or like that. 22,
Maybe
maybe.
your computer
20.
engineering was along going along.
Almost. Yeah.
No,
It's done, and I was already working. Yeah. 22, I think. Somewhere in it was like October, December, like that. Between October and December, this phase was very difficult, and I also lost a very good friend of mine,
oh,
and in that accident. So yeah, so it was a little bit traumatic, and I had got into PTSDs, like that sort of things. And this is the thing. I mean, the way that the people that were supposed to take care of me from the professional point of view, they were the way that they were taking care of me and the way that my father was taking care of me. I was like, this is so nice. I wish, because they were like, I knew so many people, and I know that why are we not doing this? Why are we just like taking, I understand their syntax, I understand their protocols, I understand where they're coming, where
Medical
they come from
context.
later on. Yeah, from
Yeah.
the professionalism, I understand their but I felt like there was something missing,
Missing.
and I felt that, okay, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
I want to like kind of copy my father, because the way that he would connect to so many things and his life, and that way, the way that he would approach life, and even I think I also told you that the way that he left his body, my father passed away 3 years ago. It was like he just called us and he just sat there and he left his body. So it was very difficult. It was like very crazy experience for us. But we had been reading about how the
Yeah.
yogis leave their body like this. So I wanted to really do something on this path. So then I started understanding and study the psychology and like that. Then I got into more studies, and then so eventually how I got into this is I love science. Okay. I love the scientific things, and spirituality lives in my DNA, and music. So these three things were something that could define me. Who is Anup? I am a techie guy and I love science. If somebody gives me, like, the first thing is like, I'm very logical. So, and I understand the science. So I love this, and music. I think I'm okay. I'm good enough. I understand. And spirituality also, I understand what it's the real thing. And I was from the childhood, I was reading Veda, I was reading all the six and seven, different things, and about Buddhism and this and that. So what really happened is, after this, there was like a phase where I became very dispassionate, just like how the Patanjali talks about Abhyasa Vairagya Bhyam Nirodha, right? So Abhyasa is there, and all of a sudden you get into this Vairagya part, where you have literally nothing. You're so dispassionate about everything. And this is where I think something entered into me. And I was like, okay, I want to do something that's science. I want to do something which really evolves around the spirituality, and it has a musical element to it.
Wow.
And this is where I got into the Nada Yoga, which is metaphysical system, and then this and that. And then I was traveling. I love traveling, and this is where how I met you guys. Also, this is how I met Narbadu sir. Also, when I was doing some project with UNESCO and all these things, right? So this is how I met him, and like that. So yeah, and since I loved collecting instrument, and then I came to Kathmandu. Then we also had a small home studio where I got to learn something about film, and I started making documentaries and music and like that. And I was more into experimental music like this. And then again, the Vairagya, then I left Kathmandu because city was not a very good place for me. Then I came to Pokhara, and I was like, yes, this is the city. It is so nice. Not very far away, not like, oh, you are in the Kailash or somewhere, but still you are like nearby. And very spiritual people come to Nepal in that seeking, and very peaceful, peace loving. And then this is how I really got into that,
Yeah.
in this what I'm doing. So I think I found this. The moment I found this, from that onwards, I did not deviate from this path, because I know this is what it is. This is what I'm all about. And then, yes, and I love to understand how things work in that. Then I started traveling from, like, in pretty much all the Himalayan belt. I had some grants from certain people that they gave me to collect the samples of some instruments. Then I started, this and that. Then I encountered singing
You need
bowls, and
you
then
need
gongs, and like this,
you need to
Yeah,
share
yeah.
this. You need to share these stories, like how the collection of these instruments. This is a beautiful story, Anup, and people need to know about this.
Yeah. So that the thing started happening when I was in Kathmandu. There was her name is Lisa. Unfortunately, she passed away during the COVID. She was a very nice very famous documentary maker, and she was working for education somewhere in Finland, and she had come to Nepal with the aim to make a documentary about life of Gautam Buddha.
Wow.
And then she made this, and then she was looking for a music composer, and she wanted to use a music composer from Nepal. But it was a very small project, just for the school informative. They are just making informative video on the life of Buddha. And then one of my friend who was working for UNESCO back then, and then he recommended her to me, and then I met her, and then I met her in Kathmandu, and then I clearly said that, see, I don't want to make any instrument, any music that's based on this computer and the Western music, and I don't want this long synth like this. I don't want money, but if you want this, I want to have those music, from those instruments, those elements that represent Nepal, and especially the Buddhism, because you're talking about Buddhism. And I want to go to the mountains and record people dancing, record their footsteps and this and that, and like this. And back then, and she was like, exactly, you are the one who, this is what I'm looking for. So we had a very nice resonating thought there, and then like we started experimenting, and then this is how I encountered singing bowl. Nowadays you go to Tamil, like everybody, like so many singing bowls like this, and I'm talking about at least 11, 12, 15 years ago. And you know this was not like how it used to be back then. There was like, for we found one singing bowl. I still have that singing bowl, a very like just like a lamp, the bati, just like a lamp. And then we tried to make some sound, and we had to go to some this antique shops to collect this and see how it is. Some would be broken, some would be like this, and then we would bring in our thing in our studio and try to record it and do some EQ tweaking to make it sound very big and profound and heavy. Then that moment, I was like, oh, okay, there's this continuous sound. I have never encountered this kind of sound in my life, because no instrument on earth can give you that continuous sound for hours. Even the flute, how long can you play? Didgeridoo, how long do you play? Right. There is a place where you have to take breath. Even if you do the circular breathing, it's not that. So nowadays with computer, we can generate. But that was something amazing. And it felt like I went into a little bit of meditative state, and it was so nice. But I didn't really pay attention to that, because I was working for that to make the music. And then once that music was done, and I would really sometimes play with that, and then I would just take it and I would chant some mantras, with that. Just I would just play, and then like this, I would chant a mantras, and I was like, I really liked it. I was like, it was so divine practice. It's just like a tanpura, but then it was just very constant, and it kind of reminded me of as if I had encountered Anahata Nada in its, let's say, physical manifestation, because this kind of sound I had never encountered. And I was shocked, like, oh, this is from Nepal. And back then, it's not like this. Whatever the scenario that you see is, I think, maximum it is 5-10 years old, whatever we see now, Before it was not. I think there was just 2-3 people and like that. And then I really wanted to know about it. But the first thing that I did is, like, I went to the Himalayas, I went to the Everest base camp, and I did some videos, and I wanted to experience how does it really feel when I go in the mountain. And from then, this is how it started. Now you can see me carrying big gong and going to the mountain. And then people say, okay, you go, why don't you record and share it? I'm like, okay. Then I started. Before, I just used to do it for myself,
Look how
So that's how
Look how beautiful the story is. How you have walked, and how that particular meeting with the lady, and how you instantly spoke. That was your heart speaking. That I don't want to do with computers or any of the instruments that are right now working, like in culture, in fashion, and you like instantly pick up your word as a time at that time was like it was from your heart, and how you really picked up that sentence till now you are working on that, and you are visiting Himalayas, you are visiting mountains. I have seen your videos. And there is something only a passionate dreamer can do. It's not a
Yeah.
structured thing. It is like a spontaneous thing, and you're instantly, continuously, and relentlessly you are working on that. This is so beautiful, Anup. This is an
Yeah.
amazing
Thank
thing.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And right now I want to know about your how everything happened up, and now you are like a global star. At least for me, for people
Yeah.
who know you, because
Yeah.
there's so many students coming to you from so many countries. I think like you have already mentored more than 5,000 people from different parts of this world. And tell us about this.
So I got into this, and then whenever I would go, let's to the mountains, and then some people would say, "What is this and that?" and they would be little interested. And when I would do something for them, then they would be very interested, and sometimes they would like to come back to meet me in Kathmandu. So then I think that's how I got my first student. She was from France, and she was into psychology and like that, and she was in her 80s and like that, and she also felt the same. Wow, this sound is like this. and then and then she's like, "Can you teach me?" I'm like, "What to teach you? I don't know anything about it." And back
Yeah.
then I started, okay, yeah, who's there in Kathmandu? Okay, let's see. Okay, they just like, they nobody. I mean, you could just talk to some shopkeepers. They had no idea, and they had some. That's why I'm writing a book about this. So
Wow.
I'm writing a brief history of singing bowl and like this, and not just random books, very tiny like this, from the vague concept of singing bowls like that. But then yeah, I said like, okay, this is how I teach, and this is how I play. And she liked it. And you think then she started asking me question. Well, what do you think it's like? I'm like, I don't know. And then
You
I
don't think.
think that really happened. And
Yeah.
then she was so happy. Yeah, she was so happy. And it seems that I am a little good teacher. I don't know why, because everybody tells me that the way that I can explain things,
Thanks.
even to those people who have zero knowledge on music and science, they seems to like, oh wow, it is so nice, and you make things very clear and very nicely without making it very pseudo. Because I don't like pseudoscience. I am if somebody says, when they talk about science, I would say, yes, science, let's talk about science. And if you're talking about spirituality, let's talk about spirituality. Let's not talk about vague concept here, like this and that, not I'm not a very big fan of very giving very mystical
Science
things
basis.
to everything,
That's not just
yeah, yeah,
that seems
yeah,
very
yeah. So
intense, deep, and profound.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, if I can explain things from the scientific perspective, then let's try to do that way. So I think this is where I got I got to teach some people, and then of course, then we started kind of touristic hostel in Kathmandu, in Pokhara, in Kathmandu, and then. Many people started coming to learn from me, and this is how I started. But then again, what happened is, I was having like 50 people in a class, and I had so many people that like, oh, they wanted to learn. So again, this was not something that I really wanted to do. I
Wow.
love teaching, but this is not something that I would like to do, like, teach so many people,
Commercialize,
and kind of,
commercialize.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. I was not so much into this. And then of course there are people that does that. What I wanted to do is very clearly that, I want to tell you that um, I wanted to become like a real. I want to first understand what is it all about, that we are the healing, and what is the science behind the balls, and not just the ball, but the gongs and other things, and how they can heal like this. I really wanted to go into deep. So, and then if I start teaching like many people, first of all, I don't make them very happy the way that I would make 1 or 2% very happy, because everybody is so different. Somebody have like this PhD in, let's say, yoga. Somebody has zero idea about yoga. Somebody has, like they're crazy pianist, and somebody has zero idea about music. And this all seemed to come, to do something. I was like, something was there beyond this. So whether you are a musician, whether you are a philosopher, whether you are, let's say, into psychiatric or whatever, or you have, whether you have musical knowledge or not, it seems that it was attracting people in from different, scopes. Uh, and I think, like, when I try to approach and teach them the same way, I felt out of 10, 3 people were happy. And I felt like I could not really quench their thirst for the knowledge that they would come. So then I thought, like, okay, this is not me. Then I would start recommending my students in Kathmandu. Then they would teach very thing. Like I'm not very robotic. So then I would start writing people. They would write, okay, Anup, I want to come for, like, 1 day like this. I said, no, 1 day, come for 10 days. And one person at a time. This is where I started, like, okay, I don't want to make too many people like my students, but I want to create, like, some people that they know the thing. And the idea was to filter out so many concepts. Like, usually what happens, see, in our, like, we come from this, so usually what happens is a Western person with so much of love and respect to our tradition, they are coming and they would go to a shopkeeper, and then the shopkeeper, just to sell that thing, would come up with exaggerated stories.
Yeah.
Oh, this is blessed by the Dalai Lama, like this. And then to sell these things. So, and this is from this metal, this is from that metal. I was just tired because I know how it is, like this. So I didn't want to just get into this. And for that, many people don't like me because they think like I'm teaching too honestly. So, but the idea was that tomorrow, if something research is done, at least they know that somebody had done it, honestly, and not just for the commercialization of this, like that. So nowadays, yeah, there are people. Then this is how I moved to Pokhara, because I don't want to be in the Kathmandu, because everybody's coming and they're just entering my space. So I would say, like, okay, let's come to Kathmandu. And this is where I was like, okay, Subhatadi is there. Let's see if we can do something together. But I happened to learn that you are leaving Pokhara at that time. So there you go. So I'm coming to Pokhara and you are leaving. And then, and from here, it was very nice that here also I started hostel, and then from here I could just take my time and I could select my students. And that time, I think this is what gave me a nice boost, that I could select my student just like a student can select a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, just like they have the right, okay, this is the teacher that I want in my life. So I said, why not? The teacher, I need to select the student. I just, that person has like a money and they're willing to give me money. Okay, I would not like beg, okay, come and learn. I'm like, I'm not interested. I would rather play my guitar, take some gong in the mountain and do, my things. And then I started having very nice students. They're they just came to learn. And there were so many concepts that, they were inflicted with. And I tried my best to remove those very superficial concept and like that. And they would, I think when something goes to the West or whatever, the whole concept gets twisted and turned, and like even the concept of chakras and nadis and this and that, they just like, it just becomes so very difficult to understand. And so I wanted to do that. And yeah, this is how I got to from that list, from this sound healing perspective, where I am today. And this, my students are making more students gently, nicely. So 10 to 15 days to almost 30 days, sometimes 6 months, they come, they say, they learn. So it is still, I'm still, exploring. And yeah, the idea is to teach people the way they learn, from what they already have the background. I'll teach the same thing, but what background do they have?
Yes.
I cannot teach quantum physics to a 7-year-old kid. I have to talk from what's the level of their understanding, and in that sense. So this is how I teach. And I think it's going good so far. People are liking it.
There are
That,
many questions I
that's
want
very
to know.
nice.
There are many questions from my personal side to you, Anup. For
Yeah,
here,
sure.
I am putting all
Yeah,
this conversation in part one, and there, because we are going in a very spontaneous way, there has to be a part two. Immediately after
yeah, yeah.
this, I'm going to talk with you. Right now, I think for this part, there's so many things I want to know more. For this part, we are ending this record, and again, we are coming back in next few minutes. Okay.
Sure, sure, sure.